So there are a lot of stereotypes and myths that people believe about hamsters. I asked you guys on Instagram to give me some myths and stereotypes you hear people say about hamsters, and today we're going to be debunking those. The first stereotype that a lot of people believe is that hamsters are small animals so they can live in small cages, or that they like small cages. Just because a hamster is a very small creature doesn't mean that it doesn't need the space to do its natural behaviors. There have been studies done to show that hamsters do show signs of extreme stress when they are placed in these small cages. Hamsters are very active animals. They do need a lot of space. Doesn't matter if they're really small. That's just not an argument to make. Their size doesn't determine whether or not they deserve a large enclosure. And sure, a hamster can live in a small cage, but that does not mean they are going to be thriving and happy, because you can shove a dog into a kennel and you can feed them and water them and never let them out, and they'll live, they won't die, but will they be happy? No. That is the difference between surviving and thriving. They are not the same thing. Surviving is doing what you need to do to survive, and thriving is having a happy, good, enjoyable life. The next myth is that hamsters should not live in aquariums and that they're bad for them. This simply just isn't true. Your hamster won't suffocate in an aquarium, and hamsters don't actually pee enough to create a serious ammonia buildup, not unless you are abusing your hamster and you're never ever cleaning their cage, you're never spot cleaning, then of course they are going to get sick because stuff builds up. But if you are spot cleaning and you are removing their pee spots, the issue is completely gone. Your hamster is not going to die from living in an aquarium. If hamsters did die from aquariums, there would be a lot more hamster deaths in the community. Hamsters chew the cage bars so they can wear their teeth down. While yes, hamsters always need to be chewing on hard objects so that their teeth can be wear down because their teeth are always growing, chewing on the bars is not a solution for them. That is not how they wear down their teeth. When a hamster is chewing on the cage bars, it is showing signs of extreme stress and boredom due to generally a small enclosure. If a hamster continuously is chewing on the bars, it can have serious effects to them, not only mentally, but it also can affect their teeth. It can chip and break off their teeth, as well as it can cause a misaligned tooth. So if your hamster is chewing on the cage bars, it is important that you take a look at how large your cage is and upgrade it. You might need to switch to something like an aquarium so that there is no bars that your hamster can't chew on. The next myth is that if your hamster gets wet, they will get wet tail. This is not true. Wet tail is a disease caused by stress, not by getting wet. Aaron's Animals actually did a really great video and explained everything, so I'll actually leave that linked so you can check that out and learn a little bit more about it. But no, if your hamster gets wet, they're not going to get wet tail. The next stereotype is that hamsters smell bad. I hear this one a lot, especially from parents. They don't let their kids get hamsters because it's gonna make my house stink. Hamsters and all other animals all have odor. All animals have some type of odor and certain smell, and some are worse than others. Hamsters don't have a smelly body odor. Like, you don't just pick up a hamster, they don't just stink. What smells bad is usually their urine, but that can really be easily solved by just spot cleaning your cage often enough that pee isn't building up. So it's very easy to solve that issue. The next stereotype is that they are cheap. This is far from true. Of course, if you walk into a pet store, a hamster is probably one of the cheapest pets you can buy there besides fish, but that doesn't mean their overall cost and health cost is going to be cheaper. The startup costs can be quite expensive to buy everything that you need, and you're obviously going to continue to buy more products for your hamster throughout their lifetime, as well as if they get sick and need to go to the vet, sometimes you're going to have to pay up to $200 to help treat whatever illness they have. So no, they are not cheap pets. So the next two stereotypes actually relate with each other, and they are hamsters are only for children and hamsters make great children's pets. I don't really know why it's seen as hamsters are only for children. An adult can certainly own a hamster and they shouldn't be made fun of it because hamsters require a lot of care. They can be complicated animals, so I don't see how they should only be suited for children. Because I actually don't believe hamsters make great pets for a child. I don't think they make a great first pet for a child necessarily because of certain reasons. And before a bunch of kids start attacking me because they own a hamster, if you're a kid, you can of course own a hamster as long as you're properly caring for them, but they don't always make a great pet for kids, and these are the reasons why. First being, hamsters are nocturnal / crepuscular. Most younger kids have bedtimes of like 8 p.m., maybe a little bit later. Hamsters are going to be waking up when your child is going to bed. That means your child is not going to often see their hamster awake or get to interact with them, and it's not okay to wake them up during the day to play with them because that's wrecking their sleep cycle and that can affect them. The next reasoning is that hamsters are fragile creatures. They can't be roughhoused with. You can't be throwing them up in the air like I have seen children do before, which is not okay. They need to be gentle with them, and not all hamsters are going to want to snuggle and sit there and be pet. A lot of them have a lot of energy and they just want to run around and try and explore and try and escape places. So they don't always make the best pet for children. The next stereotype is that hamsters always bite because they're mean. This simply is just not true. A hamster's only defense mechanism is to bite, so when they are scared, of course, they are going to try to bite to defend themselves. We kind of have to take a look at where hamsters come from. The majority of people are going to be buying hamsters from pet stores, something I don't recommend, but most pet stores actually get their hamsters from rodent mills. These rodent mills mass produce rodents to sell to pet stores, and they basically rip away baby hamsters from their mothers at 4 weeks old or 3 weeks old, however young, and then they ship them off to the store. That is a lot of environment changes and a lot of stressful conditions. Of course, when you get a hamster from a pet store, they're going to be absolutely terrified and they're probably going to bite you the first time you bring them home. And no, Dr. Phil, you can't just go to the pet store and trade them for a new one because it bit your grandchild. Hamsters need to be tamed. Hamsters haven't been domesticated for very long like dogs or cats, so when you do get one, you are going to have to go through the taming process to get them to understand, hey, I'm not going to hurt you, I just want to be your friend. The next stereotype is that dwarf hamsters are aggressive. This is not true at all. Each hamster has their own personality. You cannot define a hamster by its species. You can't say Syrians are going to be more calm than dwarf hamsters, and you can't say dwarf hamsters are more aggressive than a Syrian hamster. Each hamster is going to be different, just like each human being is different. They all got their own different personalities. I've had a couple dwarf hamsters now, and I've actually been bitten less by dwarf hamsters than I have been by Syrian hamsters. So that should show to you that no, not all dwarf hamsters are aggressive. And once again, if we take a look at where hamsters are coming from, I don't blame them for being a bit scared and showing like they're aggressive, and you can always tame them and take some time to actually work with them and get them to be kinder. This next myth is one that I actually recently read and I couldn't help myself but to laugh out loud. But somebody said that if you don't handle your hamsters daily, they will revert back to being wild. No, hamsters, for one, they're already domesticated. They can't go back to being wild because they're already domesticated. So no, they can't go back to being wild. They can possibly get used to not being handled, and then they might be a little bit more scared of you if you don't handle your hamster for a year, then sure, but they're not going to become completely wild. The next myth is that hamsters are herbivores, when actually they are omnivores. They need a variety of seeds, grains, nuts, fruits and vegetables, and animal proteins such as insects or a boiled egg, or even cooked ground beef or chicken. They are not herbivores. They cannot survive on just fruits and vegetables. They will die from lack of nutrition. So this next myth actually came out of somebody's mouth, and it just makes me want to die. But somebody said, if you feed your hamsters meat, they will turn into a cannibal. No. Next myth. Hamsters are just like rats and mice. While these three species all are rodents, yes, they all are very different from one another. They do have very different diets, as well as hamsters are these little balls with a stub of a tail who have literally no balance. They can climb and they'll fall down. They can't balance on ropes and high beams and crazy things like that. They can't jump from a rope and be hanging on there. Some hamsters are semi-good at climbing, but none will compare to a rat or mouse. They're just really different animals. And the last stereotype is that pet store employees know everything about hamsters. I'm gonna say about 10% of pet store employees actually are educated on hamster, while the other 80% is very uneducated on them. Keep in mind now, when somebody is hired from a pet store, they are a random human being. They do not need a degree to work there. I recently asked a bunch of people, hey, if you went to go get a job at a pet store, what was the interview like? What did they ask you about animal education? Many people responded to me back and they told me they didn't ask me anything about what I knew about pets. They just asked me, do I like animals? What type of animals do I own myself? That just goes to show you it's not necessary for somebody to be educated on animals to work at a pet store. As long as you like animals, you can work there. So that doesn't mean pet store employees are all going to be knowledgeable on animals, and that's why it's not the best thing to trust all of their information that they give you. It's super important before you get a pet, you do all of your research to get that pet before going to the pet store, because if a pet store employee comes up to you and starts trying to help you and they go, hey, this really small cage, this is a great one for hamsters, you can be like, no, it's okay, I have a large suitable cage, because the cage they're showing you, it's probably not going to be suitable. And another thing is that pet store employees, they are there to sell things. They're there to market products and make money. Don't forget that. So that is it for all of the stereotypes and myths that I have heard about hamsters. Hopefully this can clear some things up for people who may believe these. All of these are just, they're not true. Hamsters can be such great pets if you properly care for them. So yeah guys, thank you so much for watching. Bye!